This video, I'm going to be discussing David Hume's arguments on causality, and that's only just one of them, really, because there are a good couple, and this is rather brief. I forget to say that in some of my videos, that this is a brief thing, and you could be talking about this for a while, and I want to only give a couple certain bullet point, like, important things. I mean, it's all kind of important, but I just want to give, like, the couple, the basics things, just so, you know, we can talk about this if you want to, and also that, that people who want some help understanding what Hume is getting at can be helped as well. First off, I have a video which is called Hume's copy principle. I made that in order to just talk about that, along with the ideas and the impression definitions and such. You can go back to that. But in this video, I'm going to be discussing the relations of ideas and the matters of fact, as well as causation itself. A relation of ideas. It's, we're talking about, the sciences of geometry and mathematics and algebra and such. Now, ideas are things that are less forcible and less vivid than impressions. Like how the example Hume gives: if you draw a triangle on a piece of paper, and then you look at it and then you throw it away, you still have something like it's almost as if you could see the triangle. That's a bit of what the copy principle is. A relation of ideas. We're talking about things that are intuitively obvious, things that are very certain, things that are indubitable, pretty much. Hume's fork is like the thing between the relations of ideas and the matters of fact. And the matters of fact are basically instances of that there are possible actual facts that are beyond present testimony, present memory, present ideas. And basically, your relations of ideas cannot be denied. They are indubitable. They are inevitable. While your matters of fact, which are basically chances of there being something beyond that can be grounded in experience, and have possibility of being denied. And the matters of fact is it's an integral principle for understanding the causality of Hume. And they use causation and causality interchangeably, even though I shouldn't do that, because there are debates in contemporary metaphysics that have different uses for both different terms. But I'm going to ignore that since we're just talking about Hume here. Hume has he holds the belief that everything in this world is interconnected. Everything in this world is glued together, basically, causation as the glue of the whole universe. It's the way that it's the way that things are, and like I talked about in the last video on Hume. Ideas can come together in compounds and make complex ideas, and when you want to find the truth of that, or the source of it and what it is exactly, you can break that down and break it down into a simple ideas to find the truth and the real thing about what the whole thing is. And Hume says that with causality, you can't do that. You can't. I mean, you can, but with everything else, when you do that, you find the truth and you find the source, or whatever you're trying to find it. about them, but with causality you can't. And for him, that suggests that causality is something beyond our testimony, beyond our memory, beyond our senses, beyond our reflections, beyond experience itself. And a lot of that, ties in with him on induction, and I'm going to discuss that here too. Basically, you have necessary connection, and causality is necessary connection. That the reason and causality is just basically the relation of cause and effect, which is pretty general principle, but it has a lot of problems. People discuss it a lot in the philosophy of metaphysics and modern philosophy. For Hume, the relations of cause and effect, the fact that A causes an effect B, is not something that is, able to be grasped by ideas and relations of ideas. And I'm going to basically wait first. Induction is a form of argumentation, but it's also a form of inference and philosophical argument. And Hume draws attention to it as the problem of induction, and that, in a very brief nutshell, would be, how can we verify, first of all, induction, as opposed to deduction. Deduction is a kind of when we have arguments, we have premises and we have a conclusion. Deduction is when we go from more general premises and move towards a very specific conclusion, such that, if Dave wears pink shoes and Greg wears pink shoes, then or if all men wear pink shoes and all women wear pink shoes, then Greg must wear pink shoes. It's a specific thing going on here. Okay, I'm up here now. Sorry. And induction, or I was explaining deduction. I don't need to give any more stupid examples. Induction is different, where it goes from more specific premises and makes a more general conclusion. Kind of like going. I'm going to give an example that isn't really applied to this, but it's more applied to theory of epistemology by Alvin Goldman. If you are if you're driving through a place where, unknowingly, where you see a lot of barns around, but then you notice that one of them, and I'm not doing this wrong on purpose. If you're critiquing me based on the argument given by Goldman, if you are driving through a place where there's lots of barns and you see one that is a facade, it's like it's a fake barn. It's made to look like a barn from a certain perspective. If you just see that one facade, and say you see another one, you see a couple more, can you conclude that all of the barns in that county are facades? And again, that is not correct. It's not. And I purposely did not correctly give that example for my own purposes. The issue with the problem of induction given by Hume is that when we make a general a general conclusion based on a few more specific premises, how can we know that inductively inferred thing is the case based on only the few premises that we have come up with, based on the few things that we have seen and the ideas that we have? And basically, that has to do with matters of fact, because matters of fact can, show you something. Apparently, it can go beyond testimony, memory, sensation, and volition and such. Okay, what was that? There's an argument from inductive inference in the 7th section of David Hume's Enquiry, and it has a negative phase and a positive phase. When you hear something called negative or positive in argumentation and philosophy, negative means that it's saying that something is not the case. But if you hear if it's a positive, then they're saying that something is the case. The negative phase of the argument is that real causal connection, real causality, is not established by reason, understanding, or experience. Nothing that we have, no sensory evidence or anything that is within experience can be used to grasp, maintain, or establish any kind of causal connection, real causal connection. And he makes a little distinction between real, and this is what I think, he makes a distinction between real and not real, because the positive phase of the argument is that the mind imagines a necessary connection between two events when the two events are perceived conjoined. Like if you see, if I take my arm like this and knock over my can of beer, that's the perceived conjoinment of events. Event 1, my hand hits the can. Event 2, it falls over. That's perceived as conjoined. That's basically what it is. It's two events perceived as conjoined, and that is the only kind of causation that can be verified, understood, established, maintained, governed by experience, sensory evidence, testimonies, and memory and stuff. Just basically experience. And causation, he also gives in section 8 of the Enquiry, he gives an argument for a compatibilist determinism about free will agents, that they don't have free will, and yet they do, which I would like to get to at some point soon. And I guess the argument that I've made in a paper I've written recently, and it's, if you want me to talk more about the argument itself, if you want me to discuss it more, I definitely can. But I'm going to read something from here that verifies what I'm thinking here. All reasonings concerning matter of fact seem to be founded on the relation of cause and effect. By means of that relation alone, we can go beyond the evidence of our memory and senses. If you were to ask a man why he believes any matter of fact which is absent, for instance, that his friend is in the country or in France, he would give you a reason, and this reason would be some other fact, as a letter received from him, or the knowledge of his former resolutions and promises. Now, one might say that he says this, but he's still a full-on empiricist, because he says that anything that matter of fact is not it's not indubitable and you can deny it. But I guess my argument that I would make would be that Hume is not the best empiricist, and that would be that. And I think that the better empiricists would say about causality that the causality that exists is only the kind of causality that we find in experience, and not appeal to any kind of rationalistic metaphysical causation that is outside of it, via that are matter of facts that can be denied or not. And a lot of that is done by inductive inference. A lot of the matter of facts are inferred via inductive inference. For instance, he gives the example of how somebody finds a watch on a deserted island, like a watch that you have on your hand, and he makes the inductive inference that even though the land is abandoned now, there must have been men on it at some point. That is a example which kind of shows you that inductive inference can lead you to matter of fact, which can lead you to things which are outside of our sensory evidence. And that's kind of what he says here when he says that all reasoning concerning matter of fact seems to be founded in relation of cause and effect. By means of that relation alone, we can go beyond the evidence of our memory and senses. I think that a real empiricist would say that the only kind of thing that we could possibly infer would be something that is within experience. The only causation that we can possibly even conceive of is within experience, but he kind of holds on to this real causation, which is outside of it. Anyway, I'm gonna do a different video where I discuss more of that in depth. And if you have an argument against what I'm saying about Hume, please put it below, because I've read a lot of Hume trying to discount my own argument, because I want to make sure that my argument holds up to his texts. Thank you.